I don't always remember off the top of my head as I do some of these. Most of these are pretty much on the fly. I don't always remember everything I wanted to get to. So today I wanted to talk about why billionaires are good, part 2. Simply by their existence, billionaires, where they keep their money adds up to investment and or how they spend their money. If you were to pull all of your billions out of the stock market and blow it all on frivolous living, you would no longer be invested directly in various corporations which provide jobs, but by your purchasing a product, by blowing your money, you are actually purchasing product made by companies that support people who work and have jobs. It's virtually impossible to imagine, and in fact, I can't imagine a scenario in which you're a billionaire and you're not contributing to society in this manner. As I said in my previous video, even if you buried the money in a mattress and didn't use it, but if you used any of it to buy even a bottled water or something at the dollar store, it goes back into the economy. That's what money is for. It's what it exists to do as a tool. So it exists in this sense to be utilized in a way that invests in all aspects of the economy. Conversely, you have a lot of the leftists who say that you can't ethically be a billionaire. It's somehow immoral to be a billionaire. You don't need that much money. They tend to always have this idea that they know better how your money should be spent. It's like the rich man who buys a fancy sports car and someone says, oh, that money could have fed the poor. But it did feed people that had jobs and had children and had mortgages to pay for. And this whole cycle of the economy, because you look at it as a luxury item and you have judged how someone else uses what belongs to them, you're the one that's caused the problem. There's nothing wrong with buying stuff. It contributes to all of these things. Conversely, the leftist will say outrageously dumb things like, you should be investing in your community, by which they almost invariably mean charity. They think that charity is investing in your community, which is really not. In fact, it's more akin to taking money out and dumping it in a hole and burning it. Charity removes money from the places where it does good, creating jobs, growing the base of new capital expansion to create more jobs, to create more product, things that people want and need, they're willing to pay for, they're willing to work for, the whole cycle. When you take some of that money and you give it to the homeless guy, even if he doesn't use it to buy booze, he's going to use it to get a little bit of food. And other than that product, which you just purchased, which you would have purchased something anyway, he's doing nothing with the economy. You're not investing in him. You're keeping him alive and or drunk for another day. Most of these sort of social programming, sort of charitable umbrellas, they're all dealing with problems that, look, it's great to take money. If you've got a lot of money, if you've got money to spare, it's great to help alleviate human suffering. But that is not investment, and you need to stop calling it that. It is charity. It is charity in the old-fashioned sense, and we need to call it that. See, the political correct language is, well, we don't want them to feel guilty like they're receiving charity. So we'll call it a social program. Worse yet, social justice, as if anything morally wrong had been done to these people. Well, maybe. Wrong things happen to all of us at some point, but the whole implication that it's somehow unjust, just like being a billionaire is unjust, your conditions are your conditions. Taking money and using it to alleviate suffering, hopefully being realistic enough that you're doing it in a way like trying to get the homeless psychological treatment, helping to get the homeless drug and alcohol treatment, which then you're covering the spectrum of like 97, 98% of known homelessness. And people make this excuse that, well, capitalism has caused it. No, it didn't. These are people that have problems that leave them out of the economy and push them to the fringes of society. Those problems are absolutely uncurable in a social sense. Someone might get sober long term, someone might get the mental care they need, and they might eventually get a job and start contributing to society, and that is hopeful. But there's always going to be a percentage of them that just don't. That don't want the help, won't take the help, will misuse the help, who will use the help but never quite get there and get stable because that has been true of all human history. Since civilization began, there's people that just can't live in it because they just can't grasp it for one problem or another, or one desire or decision or another. Taking money and throwing it into this charity is perfectly wonderful if you've got the money and you want to alleviate their suffering, but that is not an investment. Using that terminology intentionally obfuscates the situation to make out that people that are investing in businesses, stocks, bonds, corporate entities that you'll contribute to billions of people or millions of people, rather either through employment or the products that they produce that are then consumed, to judge that as bad and then consider it investment to hand money to some drunk on a street corner who's just going to buy booze. This is not investment. Even if you could figure out a way to get all of those people healthy and get them doing the things that normal, healthy people do, and that is good for the economy, it's sort of a down the road thing of you helping them get to something that they should have been able to do themselves, or we wish they'd been able to do themselves, or it's because you took time after school essentially in life to tutor them, and that's helpful to them, and then in some regard helpful to the rest of us, but it's just not the same as an investment. It does not count. It's, in a very general sense, it's investing in your community to help people get well and get better. But using the term investment is an intentional obfuscation of what you are actually doing, which is charity, to be helpful, kind, and out of the goodness of your heart, try to lift some people up into a stable sort of existence. So as we see the left, the Bolshevik mentality constantly redefining things, the terminology really matters. When you divorce gender from sex, and then you start talking about sexual orientation, and then you devolve into this whole gender identity and this nonsense. This stuff happens over time, but it's just always quoting Orwell in 1984, and I'm sure communists are tired of hearing about it, but it's right in the book. They talk about how the curse is in the language. If they could just teach people the newspeak, if they could eliminate enough words, we're inventing new pronouns lest we make people feel uncomfortable. This is ridiculous. It's exactly the same. But you see in the Orwellian language, the changing of the language in order to intentionally change its meaning so that you're intentionally changing the fabric of society around it. Saying that it's unethical to actually invest and take control of your money and use it for the good of everyone. That's unethical and immoral to be a billionaire. But it's investing in your community to shovel money into the dumpster fire that is the homelessness and drug and alcohol addiction. Maybe you'll get a little bit of edge of that fire, get smothered, but inevitably it's just going to keep burning. That is not investment. And that's known. That's really understood to the people that invent new ways of speaking about this stuff so that they can pretend that it is.